Hey everyone, Kreg Tool has been teasing all week about a new product that they're coming out with Monday, February 8th. I've figured out what it is. I hit up the patent office, found patents for the new product they're going to be releasing tomorrow, and then two more as well. So stick around and let's see what we've got. So the product Kreg is unveiling tomorrow, I am 100% sure, is an Automaxx Pocket Hole Jig. That is a self-adjusting jig that you don't have to set the thickness of your workpiece for. It automatically clamps and sets the height of the drill guide to the right spot. Whether or not it will be labeled the K6 is up in the air. I'm pretty sure it will be though. So the big improvement on this above the K5 you still had to set the height of your drill block, you had to set the clamp to the right spot, and then you had to clamp it with each one. With this one, it's literally just put your workpiece in and press one button and clamp it all down. It sets the height for you, and it clamps at the same time. The only thing you have to do extra is set the stop on the drill bit. The back of the unit, though, has a spot where you can hang up the drill bit, and according to your workpiece thickness, you can adjust the collar up and down, and it's got markers for you for each spot. The clamping surface has a no-slip texture on it, so you don't have to put quite as much force as you normally would with a jig that's just all plastic. I'm really hoping this is going to be compatible with the extra inserts that Kreg has for the K5 and the K4 right now, but looking at the geometry and the drawings on this, I don't think it will be. They do talk about having different attachments that you can remove and replace these with. Toolless change, you just have these quick release clamps that you squeeze, pull it off, and you can put a new one in. I just don't think it's going to be backwards compatible with things like the micro jig or the plug cutting jig. Of course, there's a vacuum port you can attach to it, and you can attach it to a workbench for stability. One thing this patent points out is you can use this in either a vertical or horizontal orientation. That's something you can't do with the K4 and the K5. So if you have a really tall workpiece, like a whole sheet of plywood or like an 8-foot board, you don't have to stand the whole thing up on your jig. You can lay the whole jig down. That way you don't have to work on the floor if you've got something that you're afraid is going to hit the ceiling. The patent does mention having optional extension wings, and I don't know if that's going to be standard with the kit or an accessory you have to buy. The backside of the jig has a ton of space for storage. It's got a spot for the thickness gauge and the stop collar wrench, a short and long driver bit, and the drill bit itself, as well as the reference gauge for where to set the stop collar on, like I mentioned earlier. Next up is another pocket hole jig. This is a quick clamp jig. This looks really similar to their 300 series jig they recently released. The only difference is this one has a quick clamp instead of their standard face frame clamps that you can attach to it. So it looks like they designed this thing to be easily used one-handed. It's got a one-handed quick clamp style grip on it and a flat reference edge, so you can butt this up against the end of a board or a workpiece and then just use one hand to secure it down. When you're done, you can hit a release and it springs open to a preset stop that is just a little bit thicker than your board, so you can reposition it without having to do a ton of reclamping. This design looks like it also has a unique drill guide block, which is a little bit unfortunate. I really think if they do this design, they should use a backwards compatible drill guide block, so if you've already got one of these, you can use it with it. This design does have built-in dust collection, and it looks like they have an option for mounting it to a workbench, as well as having it being super portable. So they've got a dovetail style sliding attachment. You can just slide it right onto a workbench. And there's also an extension wing option for this as well. Now this next jig, Kreg is calling an infinity joint jig. What it is a way to make dovetail style joinery a little bit easier for beginners. This jig is pretty much a doweling jig, but it drills a hole that breaks through the edge of the workpiece, and then you can attach two different workpieces with a figure 8 or infinity style fastener. So this type of fastener will provide a kind of clamping force because of the geometry and keep the joint tight. A flat-ended drill bit is required for this, but for chip extraction, the whole thing is fluted, unlike a Forstner bit. Now the idea behind this is drill 2 holes and then use another piece of wood as that figure 8 to join it together. So that's going to be something Kreg would sell as an accessory to this kit that you just buy as a consumable. So they'll probably offer quite a few different species of wood, but the patent also mentions having more exotic materials like stone, plastic, composites, bone, or even shell. So this is essentially a fancy spline joint that pulls itself tight when the connector is inserted and glued. And instead of hiding these joints like pocket holes, they can actually be a decorative feature of the workpiece. On the sides of the jig, there are cam-style stops that are indexable to different fractional inch sizes, so you can pick how far of an offset you want the infinity plugs to be from the edge of the board. And in the patent drawings, there are 4 different drill guide spots on the jig, so you can drill 4 times without repositioning your workpiece. There are also a bunch of pinholes vertically on the jig that a stop can be inserted into for holding angled workpieces like picture frames. And I think my favorite part about this patent is Kreg keeps mentioning a dust port, but they always refer to it as a vacuum snout in the patent language. So that's all the patents I found for Kreg tools. Let me know if you have a favorite out of all of these, which one you're looking forward to the most. And remember, these are just patents. Except for the first one that they're going to unveil tomorrow, the other 2 may never make it to market.